Barbie Blankova. Welcome to Glioblastoma, aka GBM.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. I know we've been talking for like years on Instagram, and we have very similar stories. So I'm excited for you to share yours.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, I'm curious, I want to talk a little bit about your background. You were super into gymnastics and cheerleading as a kid, and then you were participating in WWE. How did you get into that? Let's talk about it.
It's a wild story. I never thought I was going to become a wrestler, number one. And it's crazy because it's something that I used to watch with my dad. Like that was our thing. When I was like 13, 14, I was so into wrestling and my dad loved it. And my mom was like so against it. So whenever I would go to my dad's house, that was like our thing we would watch. And my mom would get so mad. She'd be like, did you watch wrestling? She just hated the violence and everything about it. And, I was like, yeah, we watched it. She would like get so mad at my dad. But it was like, that was our bonding time. And it was so cool to have that together. And yeah, I was a gymnast. I started doing gymnastics at 3 years old. And I competed at like 6 years old.
Wow.
And I loved it. And then I ended up like breaking my tailbone in a crazy accident. And I was just like, that's done. My dreams of the Olympics are over, and then I got into competitive cheerleading at like 12 years old, and I love that. And yeah, I was always into like entertainment and like performing, obviously. And then I started, when I graduated high school, I started doing like bikini modeling for like Hawaiian Tropics. This is like the big thing back in the day. And my mom and my parents were super supportive, which was so funny because, you have to strut out in a bikini and stuff. But, they were cool. They would come cheer me on and stuff. So one day I was in a Venus swimwear catalog, which is like, you're from Florida, I don't know if you remember the Venus catalogs. So the like talent person who like found talent they were looking for models that they could train to wrestle. And they saw my picture in a catalog and they called my agent, and my agent called me and he's like, so I have this crazy like job. And I was like, what? He's like, do you want to become like a wrestler? I was like, what?
You're like, what? Dad, guess what just happened?
Oh my God. It was wild. The phone call after to my dad was so crazy. So, when he called, I was actually going to school for broadcast journalism because I was like, oh, I want to be an anchor woman. Like that could be fun.
It's actually so funny. Like when I was a kid, my parents were like, you need to be like an anchor.
Yeah.
Like it's really funny you say that.
And it was just so fun. Like I was like, oh, this could be easy. And I hated school. So I was like, well, this will, we'll get my little bachelor's degree, be fine. And so 6 months in, that's when I got the phone call. And I remember I called my mom and my dad and I was like, so, I have to go and like, I would have to try out and it'd be like a week. And then if I got, hired, I'd have to move away. And my mom, of course, is like, kind of hesitant. My dad was like, oh my God, yes. Like college will always be there. This is so cool.
We love a supportive father.
Oh yeah. He was like my number one fan. And so I tried out, they hired me and I had to move to Louisville, Kentucky. At 19 years old, I was the youngest female still, to ever be hired by WWE, which was wild. And I moved away. I've never been without my family. Like I lived with another girl from Jacksonville and we both were like so young, so naive, like didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. But I was so lucky. Like, I started training a few months in and I got a phone call and they were like, we have a position for you on the show.
Wow.
And I got brought up and the rest is history.
How did the name Kelly come about?
So I never even really knew, like they gave me a list of names because they were like, you can't keep Barbie because it's trademarked, right? It's like, okay. And they were like, but we'll give you a list of names and you pick through the names. So I liked Kelly. I was like, Barbie had a Kelly friend, I think. So I was like, that's cute. And then Vince saw the name and he was like, what about Kelly? I was like, okay, like I like that. But come to find out, there's like the show Cheers, back in the day. The bartender's name, her name was Kelly, and she had a song. I guess it was like Kelly, I don't know. So that's where I guess it originated from.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so funny. What was the call like with your dad when you got that offer?
Oh my gosh. He was like, no way. Like, this is insane.
And my dreams are coming true.
It was so like, it was just so like so full circle of like watching it with him and like seeing these women who were like beautiful. And back in the day, it wasn't like they were wrestling. It was like more models, you know, and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that could be so cool. But never in a million years did I think I'm going to become that, you know? And so, yeah, he was just like, you have to do this. You have to like try out if it doesn't work out, but at least you tried. And yeah, I remember I debuted and he was just like, like I watched every week, like was at every show he could be at. Like, it was just the coolest thing.
That's so fun. It's so nice to have that support, especially. It's so cool too, because that was something that you mentioned that he was super like involved and you guys used to watch it. So it kind of really did come full circle.
Yeah.
Love that. And so, you know, leading into your dad's, obviously your dad was diagnosed with glioblastoma. Like, what was that like? Were you involved? Were you there? How did that all happen?
You know, it's like story is just so wild. So, and it came out of nowhere. Like it literally, my aunt passed away of cancer. She had breast cancer and then it, you know, went into her stomach and it kind of took her right away. And my dad and my aunt were like this. And I remember after she had passed, it was really hard for him. And he was like, I want to move to Vegas. Like, so my sister lives in Vegas and my dad and my sister were like this. And they lived together in Miami and she moved to Vegas and he was like, I'm going to move to Vegas and I want to be closer. Cause I was in LA and she was in Vegas. And so, you know, he moved to Vegas and they, like bought an apartment, like right next to each other. And my sister was like, this was in December. She's like, Dad's acting like kind of weird.
This is December
2018.
Okay.
No, 2017. Okay. 2017. So he was just acting weird. Like he would like call my sister thinking it was me. He would text me thinking I was my sister and like would ask these weird things. And I was like, what's going on? And she was seeing him on a daily basis. Like I was only talking to him on the phone and like seeing him occasionally, but she was seeing him every day.
You were still on the show at this time?
I was still on the show.
Okay.
We were still recording. So I was like working and stuff. And so I wasn't able to be out there as much as, you know, obviously she lived there. She would call me and she's like, I think I'm going to take him to the emergency room. Like, I feel like he needs to get tests done. I don't know. He's sleeping a lot. Like, it's just like weird. And I was like, okay, take him to the doctor. She took him in. They were like, he's fine. He just needs fluids and needs to rest. We're like, okay. So a few weeks go by. Now we're at the end of December. My sister's like, you need to come here. Like, you need to get here. I can't do this alone. It's like, I'm doing this every day. And like, you know, so I fly there. We take him into the hospital, emergency room. And they're like, we're going to keep him overnight. Like, we want to do some more tests.